again in the comments. Please do ask me any questions that you might have. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Apua Kumalo. I help life coaches and I help creators on LinkedIn write better content. And if this is something that you like and this is something that you want to see more of, please do get in the comments. Please do ask me your questions. And if you have LinkedIn and you're writing content and you have a service to sell, please do get in the comments, ask me any questions, and I'm more than happy to help you. One of the things that I wanted to cover today, I'm gonna keep this live very, very short because this is the first time I've done it. I don't want to keep you long. I don't want to keep you here any longer than I have to. Um, and yeah, please also do get in contact with me on LinkedIn. I'm quite available on LinkedIn, if I might say, for someone who's quite busy with content and so many other things. Um, in terms of what I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about LinkedIn content. Now, if you're someone that's using LinkedIn content to grow your business and you're using LinkedIn content to grow your audience and get clients, I definitely do encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every now and then I do release a pre-recorded video talking about a specific subject, but for a LinkedIn live like this, I can answer any question on the spot based on what I know and based on what I've done from experience. I'm not going to pretend to know each and every single problem that you might have. So if I don't know the answer to your questions, please do forgive me on that part. I'm not going to tell you something I don't know or I've never implemented before. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, like I said, I wanted to talk about a recent conversation that I had with a previous prospect of mine, well, previous client of mine. And, I posted it on my LinkedIn today and I sort of wanted to share it with you so you can sort of learn from this experience because I find documenting, any bit of work that I do with the client in terms of the conversation, the branding, the everything, the content and everything. I find it quite helpful to document it because if I document it, people can sort of learn a lot and take a lot of value, from, one of the things that I am sharing with you. So please do get in the comments, ask me any questions that you might have. And I understand I'm someone with 99 subscribers. One person did unsubscribe during the weekend and I couldn't sleep. But please do hit the subscribe button. I wanna get to 1,000 subscribers, in the near future. So please do hit the subscribe button. But in terms of the conversation that I was having with this previous client of mine was she asked me a question and I sort of gave her a very, very well articulated and balanced answer. So she asked me, Apiwe, do you have any suggestions for writing content? I'm looking at free plans at this stage just to understand the basics for a beginner like myself. Now, one of the things that I said to her was the biggest writing suggestions I would give you is do not write content, or rather, do not write to educate, but write to make people feel something. Now, one of the biggest bottlenecks for a lot of people when it comes to content on LinkedIn, most people think they have a content problem when they have a positioning problem. Now, I was trying to answer this question in more of a content problem type of way, but I was trying to fix a positioning problem. Now, when I said to her, do not write content to just educate, write to make people feel something. The reason being is because people connect with people. They don't just connect with strategies. People connect with people, not just strategies. So it is very, very important that whenever you write your content, you want someone to engage with your content for who you are, not necessarily just for what you know. Because there is a lot of content on YouTube, Instagram, any other platform you can think of where people just tell you what to do, how to do something, when to do something, and that content lacks personality, it lacks endeavor, it lacks you know someone who genuinely cares about what they think, about what they want to educate you on. And I find that content quite repulsive at times. So I would necessarily advise you to just write content to make people feel something. People connect with people. And the second thing was write for a reason. either to sell, promote, or educate. There is no in between. Now, I do not advise anyone to write any content if you do not have a sole purpose to either sell, educate, or promote. Now, one of the things that I tell people a lot, your content might be free to consume, but it does not mean negate or sort of, throw away the value of it. And it starts with the type of content that you're writing. So if you're writing content and you're someone that's writing a lot of educational content, which is fine, but I wouldn't necessarily advise you to just write educational content. You need to find a balance, which is why you need to write to either sell, to either promote, and to grow your following. Now, I could give you my LinkedIn content schedule. So basically, from Monday to Sunday, well, I don't post on each and every single day from Monday to Sunday. I post from Monday to Friday and then Sunday. So, well, I post about 6 times a week, sometimes five if I'm busy. One of the best things that I will tell you is that on a Monday and a Tuesday, I'm writing educational content. So, Monday, it's a long form educational post where I'm breaking down a very, very complex strategy, a complex tactic, or whatever it may be on writing good content on LinkedIn. And then on a Tuesday, I'm sharing something that's a bit short form, something that's a bit, concise, a bit more sweet, and just straight to the point. And then on a Wednesday and a Thursday, I'm writing promotional content. So on a Wednesday, I'm promoting my newsletter that I've created on a third-party website like Beehive. You can also use one. You could use Beehive. You could use Mailchimp. MailerLite is also a good alternative if you're someone that's interested in writing a newsletter. And on a Thursday, I am promoting my service. I am promoting my I'm promoting a service. Sometimes I do client testimonials. It's very much client driven on a Thursday in terms of the content that I'm posting. And on a Friday, I just write a day in the life. So I could say I'm playing FC with my friends. I'm in a party chat. I'm wearing headphones. We're shouting at each other for not passing the ball. Um, and then on a Sunday, I'm writing a basic storytelling post. So basically, I talk about how I wanted to become a professional football player when I was younger. That didn't materialize for one of many reasons. How I didn't get the opportunity to go to university, as much as many of those things could have frustrated me and put me in a position where I'm resentful, I'm hateful. I find opportunities in other things. So that's one of the best ways I write content. So on a Monday and a Tuesday, I'm educating. Wednesday, Thursday, I'm promoting. Friday, it's a day in the life post. Sunday, it's a storytelling post. So that's one of the best ways to structure your content on LinkedIn. And yeah, I think I covered everything in terms of how to, structure your content on LinkedIn. You can also use this template in order to write your content, you know, from Monday to Sunday. But I wouldn't necessarily say copy it, what's the word? I wouldn't necessarily say copy my content schedule day for day. You could probably do well just posting 4 times a week. On a Monday, you're educating. Tuesday, you're selling. Wednesday, you're sharing a story post. Friday, it's a day in the life. You don't have to post 6 times a week like me because I sell a content service. So it defeats the purpose. If you're not selling a content service and you're posting 6 times a week, you don't have to. So, and one of the questions that I received from a follower of mine was how to position himself. It was how to position himself on LinkedIn because he is a brand strategist. Now I'm just looking to find the conversation that I had with him. Now he asked me. He reached out a couple days ago and he asked me, um, I'd love if I can also learn from you and if you could school me on how to position myself on LinkedIn and to close more deals and grow. So basically, I said, sure thing, let's connect on WhatsApp, and if I have time during the week, we can get on a free coaching call. So instead of getting on a free coaching call, which you probably might still want to get on a coaching call, I found to just probably do a YouTube live like this, where you can ask me questions if it is in the chat. So basically, the question was he wants to position himself to close more deals and get more clients on LinkedIn. Now, one of the best ways I find to be very, very helpful if you want to grow on LinkedIn and if you want to position yourself is to sort of build in public. Now, many people struggle with LinkedIn because they don't want to sort of build in public. It's sort of a difficult thing to do, and I understand it's a very, very difficult thing to do, to get on camera, to talk to people, to try and be concise, to try and also be, show a bit of personality so people don't get bored. Um, so I am viewing Toluwani Salawan, which is a brand strategy. He's a brand marketing guy in Nigeria. Shout out to the people in Nigeria. So basically, he is a brand and marketing guy. So Toluwani, one of the things I would advise you to do is right now, I would advise you to sort of optimize your LinkedIn profile, because I can tell at the moment you don't have a LinkedIn banner. You don't have a LinkedIn banner. Also, your profile picture, I would edit it a bit and probably bring it a bit closer so people can actually see your face. Um, Also, I would remove the open to work banner, because this open to work banner that goes around your profile picture. Because as much as you probably are open to work, you also want to come across as someone who is an expert. And if you want to show yourself as an expert on social media, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, you don't want to come across as I'm desperate for work, because then it defeats the purpose of telling people that you're good at what you do. And if you are good at what you do, then you probably be getting clients. And that doesn't show if you have an open to work banner. As much as you might probably need the clients, um, this is something that I probably would advise anyone to get, or rather do, if I might say, remove the open to work banner, because one of the things that I will tell you from personal experience, people with an open to work banner, they don't necessarily get clients and they don't necessarily get work, and it just stays there forever. So just remove it. Come across as someone who is getting clients, even though you might not be getting clients. This is one of the many fake it till you make it things that I will endorse. So please do remove the open to work banner. In terms of your biography, you say turning brands from invisible to irresistible, and then you've got a line that separates branding, marketing strategist, helping businesses attract, engage, and convert through identity driven growth, remote first. Now, Toluwani, one of the things that I would tell you is you totally need to change your bio. Not necessarily everything, but I would advise you to sort of make it a bit simpler for someone who's interested in your services. So, the best way I would tell you to do that, the best way I will tell you to do this is change it and start with I help businesses attract, engage, and convert, whatever it may be. And then one of the things I will give you mine so you sort of get an idea of how to structure it. So basically, I wrote my bio is I help founders and life coaches build an audience on LinkedIn. And then I've got a line that cuts across and it says ghostwriter and LinkedIn growth advisor. Now, this bio is very, very simple. It's simple to read and simple to understand. I help founders and I help life coaches build an audience on LinkedIn with organic content, but I didn't write with organic content. And then I've further clarified what it is that I do. So I'm a ghostwriter in terms. So if you're asking yourself, well, how do you help me build an audience on LinkedIn? And then I've obviously written ghostwriter and LinkedIn growth advisor. So you get an understanding of how I'm helping you build an audience on LinkedIn with my writing skills as a ghostwriter and LinkedIn growth advisor. But yeah, in terms of how you structure your biography, I would tell you to simplify it a bit and sort of get into what it is, who it is that you're helping, and how you're helping them. If there's anything else. Oh, one of the things that I would also advise you on is you need to sort of have a brand identity. So if you're selling someone on brand identity, you also need to have a brand identity of your own. So if you look at my profile, I have a very, very clear color scheme. So I have red, black, and white. Red, black, and white. on every single thing I could brand in terms of my offers, whether it's a free product, a paid product, a even a proposal. Each and every single thing is branded in red, black, and white. So if you go on my profile, my banner is red, black, and white. Profile picture has a red background. My content has a red, black, and white theme on it. Even if it's a simple selfie pic, I put it on Canva, I put my branding identity on it, and you have to be intentional about your branding if you're going to sell someone on, if you're going to sell a business on having a brand identity. Now, sorry, I actually bought this microphone not so long ago, but I don't use it. I actually use a different one now. But also, you need to optimize your featured section. You could do a lot better than what you have currently. I wouldn't necessarily advise you to use your own content as featured section, because a lot of people do it nowadays, and it's kind of overused at this point. So I wouldn't advise you to sort of have your own content as a featured section. Have something that's premium, that looks good, that can be used as a thumbnail, and then you write um, I, a short synopsis of what it is that you have in your featured section. So you can always use my profile as a template on how to structure your content, your featured section rather. And let's get into some of the content that you've been posting. Now, you don't necessarily look like you've posted a lot of content. Excuse me. Now, you don't necessarily look like someone who's posted a lot of content, but I see that you reposted Pascal Kellogg's post. Look, I'm not necessarily against you know, reposting other people's content, but it doesn't necessarily help you get any clients. Um, it just helps them further their content onto other people who are in your network. It doesn't necessarily bring you any leads, because it's not your content, and it's just not your content. So I wouldn't necessarily advise you to repost anyone's content, especially if you're in the building phase of your business. Unless if you've got 100,000 followers and you're getting 100 to 200 likes per post, and you have 10 to 15 clients waiting to work with you, and you're charging $2,000 per client, I wouldn't advise you to repost anyone's content, even if it's out of good faith, because it does not bring anything back to you. So do not repost anyone's content. So in terms of how I would probably position yourself, I would definitely say your brand identity you need to have a brand identity. So you need to have a three-color scheme that I would advise you to have. Um, Focus on premium designing for your banner. Have your profile picture be a bit closer than it is. Your featured section needs to be a lot better. You can use my profile as an example on how to create your featured section. Also, you need to be creating hyper personalized content. If you're targeting a very very specific niche in terms of businesses that you're targeting, so you're targeting businesses who need help with their brand identity, you need to have hyper personalized content. The people that who are reading your content, if they're running those sort of businesses, they need to sit and think to themselves, this person really really went deep into some of the problems that I'm having. So you need to have hyper personalized content, and that starts with the businesses that you're connecting with. So if you're connecting with 10 to 50 businesses a week, I would probably engage with their content for a week or so, be hyper personalizing the comments that you're putting out. Also ask questions, but not necessarily just asking questions for the sake of it, but to sort of get some market research, understand what it is that they're talking about, understand the way in which they say things, and use that information to write content for them. So that is basically one of the best ways you can position yourself, because they need to start seeing themselves in your content, especially if you're selling something as specific as helping businesses build a brand identity. Now, if there's anything else that I haven't covered. In terms of reaching out to these clients, LinkedIn DMs are good, but I would also advise you to sort of, you know, do cold calling. If you're someone that's not necessarily comfortable, picking up the phone and calling these prospects, LinkedIn DMs also work, but a lot of people ignore their DMs at this point in time. So because, and I will give you a perfect example with myself. So there's this one potential client that I reached out to a couple months ago. I reached out, I think 3 times, and it wasn't necessarily a situation where I sent the first message on a Sunday and I reached back on a Monday morning, and the third message on a Wednesday. It wasn't necessarily that cringy, if I might say, or very, very pushy or aggressive, but I would send a message a week before. I'd probably reach out again probably a couple days later, and I still wasn't necessarily getting a response from this person. So what I did was I just picked up the phone and I called her, and she was very, very much receptive, and she had very, very good energy. So sometimes all it takes is a very, very good cold call, if I might say. So definitely to get into cold calling, but you probably would need quite a bit of money, in terms of buying airtime and whatnot. But cold calling is definitely one of the best ways to um sort of get clients right away, because right there and there you get decision makers. And yeah, in terms of anything else that you might have questions with, Toluwani, also I would advise you, Toluwani, to build a newsletter. I want you to create a third-party newsletter, because at this moment in time, if you're someone that's helping businesses with their brand identity, you also want to show people what it is that you're doing. So I would advise you to build a third-party newsletter. You can create one on Beehive, you can create one on MailChimp, you can create one on MailerLite. Many great platforms to build your newsletter. For one of many reasons, because you're selling a brand identity service. So it's very, very important to show people the work that you're doing. So definitely do build a newsletter where you share some of your designs, where you also talk about what inspired this design, why you did this design. You sort of want to build a portfolio of good content that you're showing people who might be interested in your service. Now, I'm not necessarily someone who is in brand identity for businesses. I'm more of a helping life coaches with their content. I'm more of in the building a following, building an audience, but I'm also very good at writing content even for myself. So for you, you're helping people with brand identity, so it's very, very important to sort of show people what it is that you're doing. um in terms of any other questions that you might have, I would definitely do advise you to build a newsletter. Build one where you're showcasing your branding, showcasing your skills, why you did some of these designs, what inspired some of these designs. If I'm you and you're just getting started, I would also advise you to get into YouTube content. So now your YouTube content could look very, very different from my content, and it could look different to any other person's content. But what I would advise you to do is, I would advise you to download Loom, LOOM, which is a platform where you can record content where you show on the bottom half of the screen, and the whole screen is just basically what you're designing. You can sort of walk people through some of the designing that you're doing. You can also upload that video on YouTube. You can create a playlist. So whenever you reach out to someone in the DMs on LinkedIn and they're not quite sure about what it is that you're doing, but they are receptive to answering your questions, you might want to just guide them and tell them, hey, check out this design, check out this, check out that. And you also, oh sorry, Anyway, just lost my train of thoughts. Also, you do want to go on do tap into ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT each and every single question that your audience or your ideal client might have in terms of, you know, how to build a brand identity for their business. You don't want to have any question unanswered, if I might say. So that is quite important. Um, I think I've helped you quite enough, Toluwani. If you have any other questions, please do get in contact with me on WhatsApp. I've been having a few conversations with I've been having a few conversations with a few life coaches quite recently, and one of the biggest things that really frustrates me when I reach out to a lot of life coaches and I want to help them with their content. One of the things that they usually tell me is that they're already doing their content, and they're very happy with what they're doing. As much as I would like to believe that, I wouldn't have reached out if I don't necessarily think your content is up to standard and your content is building the audience that you want, and it's sort of getting clients through the door. So one of the things I would advise you as a life coach, if you're writing content and you feel like your content isn't getting you clients, it's not necessarily building you an audience. And if I reach out to you, please don't be defensive and tell me that your content is already doing well. It's not doing well because I wouldn't have reached out. There are plenty of life coaches that I've connected with. When I check their profile, it looks perfect, and I simply just disconnect because I know they're doing very, very well. If I reach out to you and I even write a message, that means whatever it is that you're doing could be a lot better. So that's just my 2 cents on it. And um, also, as a life coach, one of the things that I would advise you to do is, if you're someone that wants to start your life coaching business, but you also have a full-time job, which I fully understand, I would advise you to sort of build your audience while you still have a full-time job. A lot of life coaches tell me that they're waiting for the perfect time to start their coaching business, which almost never happens. You know, that almost never happens where you find the perfect time to actually build your coaching business. It doesn't work. You sort of build while you also have a full-time job, while you're also doing something else, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where, let's say maybe you have a full-time job right now and I ask you about your coaching business that you want to start, and you're telling me that you want to start your coaching business next year. Well, what about now? What about the audience you could have built in that time, by the time you reach that time when you do want to start? So I do advise a lot of life coaches, build now. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So don't sit on your laurels and sit on your hands and think to yourself, well, I'm going to build my coaching business when the time is right or in a year's time. That is perfectly fine if you genuinely want to do that. But you could be building a huge audience in that time. You could be understanding a lot more what your audience wants and what type of content to post, what type of branding to sort of incorporate into your business. And yeah, I think that's one of my biggest, pieces of advice I would give any life coach. Do not sit and wait, for the perfect time to build your coaching business. There is no perfect time. You build now, and you sort of, once you get to the time, like I said, where you do want to start taking it a bit more seriously. Maybe you've probably received, well, I wouldn't say received, but you've probably built a following of 500 people. You've built a newsletter on Beehive and you've gotten 50 subscribers within that time. So now, when you do want to take it a bit more seriously, you have a platform on which you can now build your coaching business. So don't sit and wait for the perfect time to build your coaching business. The perfect time is never there. Even for any other person, you don't have to be a life coach for me to tell you that the perfect time does not exist. You build while you're still doing something else, and then once you feel like you're ready to pivot, you have something to build on. So um yeah, I think I've covered a bit of everything that I wanted to cover today. um So I received a question from Ifiolua Olobo. Yeah. Oh my word, Nigerians have beautiful names. I won't even lie to you. So here, so basically, she asked me a question on. Well, she first thanked me for engaging on her post, and she likes connecting with professionals who value meaningful conversations. And she asked me uphill, what is the best way to build relationships on LinkedIn? Now, one of the best ways to build a relationship on LinkedIn is quite simple. Reciprocity is the bread and butter of everything that I do on LinkedIn. If I feel like I'm engaging with your content and you're not engaging with my content, then it defeats the purpose of me being connected with you. And I understand a lot of people say to themselves, well, I've been engaging with this person for 3 months, they weren't answering, they weren't replying back, and then randomly out of nowhere, they were interested and they suddenly became a client of mine. Well, those are great success stories, but for someone who's actively building their business right now, you need to value reciprocity more than anything. So if you're posting a lot of content and you're also engaging with a lot of content from other people, they also need to engage with their content back. So here's my general rule for anything. And I know this doesn't sound like the Disney fairy tale idea of building relationships with people on LinkedIn where you're engaging with their content, you're sharing a bunch of value from YouTube. My way is quite simple, and I've done every bit of the fairy tale way of building relationships on LinkedIn. I would advise you to value reciprocity. So if you're engaging with someone's content, they also need to engage with your content back. If they're not doing that, that is a deal breaker, and you should be disconnecting with that person. Especially if you're also reaching out to them and they're not answering their messages and they're not replying to you, definitely do disconnect with that person, because for one, your content is going out to them and they're not engaging, which is harming the reach of your content. Also, they're not interested in your service, which defeats the purpose of having them as a connection in the first place. So I would definitely advise you to look into your network and look into who is engaging with your content. If they're not engaging with your content, are they receptive to your outreach? So if you're not getting both, just disconnect. I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you the fairy tale strategy on how to build relationships, but I would tell you is be very, very honest, be very, very upfront about the value that you provide. Also, provide a lot of value. So, I share tons of value. I offer recommendations. I probably tell them to contact this person if you're interested in this, interested in that. Um, but what I focus more on is not necessarily what it is that they're doing or what it is that they want to be doing. I focus on their aspirations. Now I simply ask them a question. Hey, let's say, hey Susie, thanks for connecting. I always appreciate connecting with life coaches because I learn a lot from them. um how are things on that end? Are you smashing it? Asking those type of questions where you get a yes no is one of the best ways to get into the DMs and sort of get someone to answer your question. But in terms of now sort of building that rapport and asking them specific questions, and you're asking them things like um usually the questions that I ask are what are your aspirations on LinkedIn? And that really gets them to share a lot. And once I get an understanding of what their aspirations are, I'm someone who likes to provide value from the point of view of you know them getting to their aspirations. So if their aspirations is to get to 4,000 followers, getting 5 to 10 clients a month, I know that's a lot. Um, I'm gonna be sharing content with them on what got me to 4,000 followers, what got me to 5 to 10 clients a month, things of that nature. Um, and also, please do refrain from telling people what to do if you've not done it yourself. And also, sharing a lot of YouTube content is one of the best ways to build rapport, because a lot of people on LinkedIn have great advice, but they don't even have a YouTube channel. They're afraid of putting their face on the screen, and generally sharing ideas and sharing strategies, and speaking very, very eloquently, being precise, being authentic. And it's not easy doing something like this. It takes a lot of courage, and it also takes quite the investment, if I might say. Um, and yeah, I think I've covered everything in terms of what I wanted to cover today. My eyes are getting a bit tired. I've been staring at this very much lit studio, um, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, if you have any questions, please do get in the comments. Please do ask me anything that you might want to ask me. Um, I'll definitely stick around for the next 2 minutes if you have any questions. Um, Let me look at some of my recent content and see if there's any questions that have been asked that I could probably answer for you in this LinkedIn Q&A. Um, Now I do advise you to also follow us on Spotify. On Spotify, it's basically where I share a lot of content like this, but it's not necessarily on camera, but it's a lot more specific content and a lot more ideas. And I provide a lot more content than I would on YouTube because YouTube requires a lot of time, planning, and effort. Um, on Spotify, I'm just me and my microphone, and I'm staring into the moon. Well, there isn't a moon, but I'm just staring in the sky, and I'm just sharing ideas on LinkedIn growth and some of my best strategies. Um. Anyway, I don't know if you've seen the recent LinkedIn policy that has gotten everyone talking quite recently. And um, after reading that article about LinkedIn selling their ad space to YouTube, it has harmed a lot of people's growth on LinkedIn. A lot of their reach has, sort of declined a bit, and a lot of people are quite agitated and quite rightfully so. But one of the best things I will tell you is, if your LinkedIn reach is somewhat struggling at this point in time, I do advise you to check out my recent LinkedIn shorts that I posted. I think you'll find a lot of value from it because LinkedIn has changed the way that it structures its algorithm, if I might say. So recently, LinkedIn, sorry, just give me a second. LinkedIn is now prioritizing relevancy more than anything. Now, if you're someone that's been posting a lot of content and you MO and that sounded so weird. Your MO, your focus has been on going viral for the most part. LinkedIn has made a new change and it is now prioritizing relevancy. So your post can look like a failure after the first 60 minutes of posting, like my recent post that I put out today. My recent content had about no, not the post that I posted today, the post that I posted on Friday and the one that I posted on Thursday. Those content posts did about 13 likes and 12 comments, and the other one did about 10 likes or 13 likes as well. That content did very, very well, but there are times where my content just does about 3 likes, um, and about 2 comments and whatnot. It's a really, really frustrating thing, but LinkedIn has now changed and it's now focusing on relevancy, whereby your content can look like a failure after the first 60 minutes, but 24 hours later, the post can really start to pick up the pace, with the engagement that you're getting. So don't be discouraged. Focus on your content being relevant. And one of the best ways your content can be relevant is to post good quality content, which means the visual needs to be good, the writing needs to be eloquent, it needs to be very good, and it needs to be well structured, but also include a bit of storytelling so people can relate to the content a bit more. It's not good enough to just say how to do X, Y, and Z. Talk about how you did X, Y, and Z and why it should be helpful for anyone who's reading your content. That is relevancy. how is this relevant to me as someone reading your content? So don't chase virality, chase relevance. So that is one of the best strategies I will share with you today, in order to write very, very good content. And in terms of everything that I've shared with you today, I think I've covered everything that I would normally cover in one YouTube video. Obviously, one YouTube video is probably like 8 to 10 minutes, but today I've done about 14 minutes of just non-stop yapping. So please do get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Should I do more of these LinkedIn lives on YouTube? And if you do want to see more of them, please do hit the subscribe button. I haven't eaten anything today. I just woke up and decided I want to talk in front of a camera. Anyway, um, I think we've covered everything that I would probably cover. I think we're just gonna leave it at that. My stomach is growling and I need to get something to eat. Um, yeah, I'll see you guys very, very soon. I will make this live available for you guys to sort of get your teeth into it. Like me when I'm going to eat right now. Um, yeah, I will make it available for you guys in a few minutes. If you have any questions, please do leave in the comments. I will cover it in the next YouTube live that I will be doing well, not tomorrow, but next week, because I think I've done enough, video content for 1 week. I can obviously clip this long video up and just put an opus clip. As long as the quality is good on YouTube's end, I can obviously clip this up and post about 8 reels on Instagram. And yeah, if you have any questions, please do get in the comments and let me know what you think. Um, and yeah, I think it's been a blast. I won't lie to you. I think it's been a blast. I won't lie to you. Yeah, man. I'll see you guys very, very soon, and thank you.